Hello, welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So today I'm going to be talking about my favorite books of 2017. So for 2017, I read 71 books, which I exceeded my reading goal for the year. And I was very happy about that because most of the books I read I really enjoyed. There was a few that were mediocre, and then there's one or two that was kind of like, this wasn't that kind of book I wanted to ever read again. But I would say overall it was some good books. So on my list I have 11 books. I just couldn't get it down to 10. So the first book I want to talk about is Home. And this is a story that I learned a lot from. This is deal with a woman who had a severe case of postpartum depression. She's married and had her first child. It was a mild case, nothing to be alarmed about. But when she had her second child, it became a serious matter where she felt like she could harm her child. And this kind of fear caused her to run away. So she decided that, instead of staying home and harm her child, she needed to be gone. But it turned out to be a 3 year of no one knowing where she was, whereabouts, or how she's doing. But they knew she was alive because she would send things back. So now you have her family trying to move, her husband trying to do the best that he can with 2 children, and having somewhat trying to date, trying to put himself back out there, when she decided to come back after she heard that the oldest child was ill. So when she came back to, a broken family and still feeling that she was needed, and trying to build a relationship back with them, with the youngest son who doesn't even know who she is because he was a baby when she left, and the older child who fell abandoned. Now he's sick, but he fell abandoned by the woman who, was his mother who he loved. So you got to really understand the family dynamic, and as well as how to deal with that, the resources that's out there that can deal with postpartum depression. And there's a lot of information in this book, and I really enjoy learning about women who deal with this kind of depression. So the next book I have is called Sing Unbury Sing, and I'm not going to talk much about it because this is a book that's everywhere and a lot of people read it. I enjoyed this story. I even enjoyed it more and got a more connection to the story after I read her memoir. I felt like it explained how she connects death in the story, and the haunting feeling that of people who are stuck and not knowing how to love themselves or their family. And it's so much in this story that I get it now, and I get it then, but it's just a little bit more connection I have with the story now after reading her memoir. And it's a really interesting story that deals with a mother who is a substance abuser, and every time she's high she sees her dead brother, and it connects her to him, and but she struggles to even take care of herself, and not to mention the 2 kids that she has. And she decided to take them on a road trip to get their father, who's been in jail. And you get to see the hell that she's created for herself and her children on this road trip to get them. And it's also told from the point of view of her oldest child, which is her son, and his own issue of dealing with his mother, and also having this haunting thing going on with him as well. And it's a mess. It's a story that will have you at times puzzled, because you're trying to really get a mother that would do that to her own children, but yet still she's doing it to herself as well. So I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a good one. Alright, next one is called Parable of the Story by Octavia Butler. If you never read of Octavia Butler, you need to. She's a paranormal writer, but she writes stories that you can still connect to the now. And although a lot of her stories were futuristic in terms of when it was written, you still get certain things about it that you can walk away with and think about, wow, that is so. Some of that stuff is so relevant to what's going on now. She touched a lot of times. She touched on religion. She touched on sexuality. She touched on family, political issues, and all these other things that you wouldn't expect from this kind of genre. But that's the kind of writer she is. And in this story, you have a young girl who has this power where she can feel pain, and but she also can feel pleasure from people. And you know, the world is like basically in chaos, and she lost her family, her community, and she has to find a way to survive and move to somewhere else that she can live. But she has this goal and this belief system that is helping her to reach that goal. And along the way, she meets people who are going on this journey with her, who don't really know what they're doing, or even if they even believe what she believes, but they still need to bond in order to survive and to move on to a land that they can live, because they've lost everything. And this is Octavia Butler at her best. Love this, love this. The next one is called The Knicks, and The Knicks is another family drama that deals with a young man who is dealing with 20 years of abandonment issue. You know, 20 years of not knowing where his mother was, and now she got herself in some mess, and he's expected to write a letter to help her not get a harsh sentence. And so all of that emotion of losing her, not knowing where she was and feeling abandoned, to now seeing her and having to deal with her. But then there's secrets, there's things that unfold, and why she moved. And this book also, you know, talks about a lot of things that happened in the 60s, and I loved it. It's kind of one of those stories that it felt like a movie, but you know, so there's certain things about this book that I really enjoyed, and I loved it. The next one is Eve Out of Her Ruins, and this is one where I feel like the less you know, the more you enjoy it. And you know, but think of like those beautiful catalog of vacation spots, and they show you all the beautiful things, but you never know about the ghetto and the side of that country that is going through hell, and the people who live in it. And that's how this story is. You know, that's as much as I'm going to give you of this story. But it was very poetic, and the writing was amazing in the story. I really love it. The next one is A Love Letter to Whiskey, and I talked about that. It's my favorite romance novel this year, and I talked about it in the video, so I'll post it down in the bottom of how I really feel about the book and why it's my favorite romance novel this year. The next one on my list is Hunger, and Hunger is Roxane Gay at her best. I think it was a great read, and it was raw, and it was honest, and it talks about a lot of things that you know, sometimes you don't necessarily want to believe that somebody can really go through this kind of pain but still able to move on with life and write and follow her dreams of things she wanted to do and be successful, yet still have this pain and these things that she hides from her family and things that she sometimes don't admit to herself. And I really love this this memoir, and you know, she made me really think back to when I read Untamed State, and I got how she was able to like write a story that was so brutally raw in terms of how they talked about sexual assault. And I remember reading that story and wondering, how did she get the inspiration to write this and not struggle? Because it talks about that incident in terms of the aftermath that people don't really talk a lot about in books, the physical aftermath, not just the mental, but the things that can happen to someone's body, and they have to live with this for the rest of their life. And it's amazing, because that book was a struggle to finish. It's a necessary read though. I still would recommend it, but just know that it's not the easiest book to get through. The next one on my list is my most guilty pleasure. This is the book where, if you like a person who is big on morale, this book is not for you. This book is that me cheering for the bad guy. I was cheering for the bad guy. So Crime Against the Book Club deal with a book club where these women are what you call the rich bitches. They're wealthy, don't do much, and but they're not the nicest people. and you have two women who are, you know, trying to keep up with the Jones, and they have money, but they're really not on the level of that. So one of the women, she decided she couldn't take anymore her job, and she left her job in a very dramatic way. I laughed so hard. So now she's in a money issue, and you know, she wanted things, you know, one wanted to have a child and she was struggling with that, and there's other things that was going on. And they decided to come up with this cosmetic brand that have this supposed to keep you young, youthful kind of cream, but there was something in there, because she just had to put something in there, and they didn't know. And but it was, this cream was making them bold. They were doing things that they wouldn't have thought of. Their marriages was doing better. There was some benefits, but there was also harm in their health. So that's where the morale came in. But she was making it, she was making money, till eventually there was a bit of some jealousy issue, and it was exposed. And how it exposed is what, you know, the dramatic show, and they tried to make it a little bit morale, put a little bit of morale in the end, but that was all for the bad stuff. I just loved it. It is my guilty pleasure. This is not a book that you're looking for inspiration. It's not for that. This is pure entertainment. This is me laughing, especially like the one of the girl's mother. She is like the ultimate bougie bitch, and she's just out of control. But she made me laugh, and I really enjoyed this story. The next one on my list is The Hate You Give. And you know, this is another popular one that a lot of people read this in 2017, and I loved it. It did open up, you know, communication and talks, and I think it was done in a way where it made it a little easier for some people to have that discussion, because it wasn't so much of, oh, we hate police. No, it's just in the injustice, and not only that, the community and what they have to deal with the police, as well as the people who in the community who are not so much, you know, causing some issues as well. And a young girl who's struggling. She's one hand, this is her community, this is her life, but then she goes to the predominantly white school where she has white friends who don't really understand what's going on, because they're going by what they hear on the news, which is not always the truth. You know, there's a lot of times what they put on the media is sometimes, you know, fabricated and not quite honest of what's really going on. So I do like how she was, you know, she write this story, and I think it's like a book that I would recommend to a lot of younger readers, because it is positive in terms of how it talks about the issues that's going on now. The next one I have is Stay With Me, and I'm a fan of Stay With Me. I was reading this book when I was in Aruba. And this book, at times, I was just going to be trying not to cry, because it's just so, it's an emotional story that it's sad at times, but then there's those times where you're thinking, I mean, it takes a lot to have forgiveness. And there's a lot of that in this as well. But this story talks about a couple. They live in, I believe, Nigeria, and they have these certain customs where they're supposed to have kids, and if they can't, you know, the husband's allowed to have multiple wives. And in this case, the wife, she comes from a family where she was raised in that, where her father had multiple wives, and she didn't like the treatment she got and things that she saw, so she knew she didn't want that for herself, and they had agreed they wouldn't. So when a second wife was introduced, you know, she got desperate, and she wanted to have a child, and she did all these things that are so negative, and at times, you know, it's like so sad, but you know, that's what happens sometimes in a culture where, you know, you're less than a woman if you can't have a child, or you know, you're not treated well if you can't have a child, and no one ever looks at the man. In that case, it's always the woman that's the problem. But I really love this. You know, it's a lot of you know, there's infidelity, there's trust, there's responsibility that amongst both parties in this relationship that's negative, but you get to understand and somewhat feel that compassion for them, even though what they did is morally just strong, you know, but it happens. So, and my favorite book, of course, is an older book that's been out for a couple of years, but it was my first time reading it in 2017. Love it. It is called 32 Candles. it is a pure comedy to me. I love this story. It is that ugly duckling that grew up to be this beautiful woman and successful, and but still had that drive. And she was a young girl that was, grew up with an abusive mother who basically, did any and everything. And, she saw so much, negativity with her mother and her mother's lifestyle. And one day something happened where she just stopped talking. She was just not going to talk. And she did that all the way to high school until she met this guy that she really liked, and she was basically stalking the guy. But she wasn't talking, and she was always quiet, so no one really noticed until his sister noticed and make her life a living hell, till one instant caused her to run away. She just decided that she needs to be away from everyone, the town, the people, her, her mom, but didn't know what she was gonna do. But she was fortunate on the way. She'll meet people, on the road. She met people that helped, and she tapped into a talent that she didn't even know she had, and that talent helped her for many years to survive. And there's men that came in her life and things that she did, but all that came to full circle when the guy that she had a crush in high school and his sister and everyone else came back into her life, and she had to deal with a lot of things that she did that was wrong. But I was rooting for her. There was times where she was, she was a little clever and smart, and in the story you didn't realize what she was doing. When you realize, you're like, okay, but I laughed. It's pure comedy, and I'm a little disappointed because she's only written 2 books, and I've read both. And she just stopped, and I think this is an author that really needs to get back to writing, because she knows how to write these women in interesting situations that will have you laughing. But then there's times where she can put something in there that will give you inspiration in your own personal life, and realizing that, especially in the story when she talks about atonement, and and how important that is sometimes to move on with your life and to be better. And I loved it. It's my favorite book, and that's it. So what is your favorite book that you read in 2017? Put it down below. And if you read any of these, whether or not you liked it or not doesn't matter to me, but I'm always good on feedback. My opinion is my opinion, so I don't get offended if somebody don't like a book that I like. It doesn't matter to me, because it's what I like. So, but if you didn't like it or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But put a comment down below.